Wow, oh my goodness, another unoptimized Ubisoft game. I'm shocked. Said not a soul ever. Let's get into it.
Skip it up and that up.
So Ubisoft, insert title here, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Watch Dogs Legion, Far Cry 4, I remember back in the day, the irony of the issues that Far Cry 4 had regarding Far Cry 6 today. Assassin's Creed Odyssey had issues on the PC with frame pacing. I remember dealing with that, and even the high-end PCs, it still had issues with Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The list goes on. Just if a Ubisoft title is coming to PC, especially when it first launches, just expect that it's not going to run well. Well, Far Cry 6 is no exception. It runs like absolute crap on PC. And why is that? Because it seems that when you run benchmarks on Far Cry 6, and if you show MSI Afterburner running, it maxes out just one of the CPU cores. You could have an 8-core, 16-thread CPU. You'll see in a second the rest of your cores are just chilling, and one of the threads is being pinned, like all of its resources are being used, while the rest of the cores are just sitting there like, hey, give me something to do. This comes from DSO Gaming, and here you'll see during 1440p and 1080p that it's not being bottlenecked by the GPU like you'd think with a game maxed out settings with ray tracing. It's being bottlenecked by the CPU. Now, when they were capturing this video, they used an Intel Core i9 9900K. I actually have a 9900KS in the rig behind me on my right side, with 16 gigabytes of DDR4 at 3600 megahertz and an NVIDIA RTX 3080. Very admirable rig. That Core i9, slightly dated as it is, that thing will serve you well for years. They also used the Windows 10 64-bit. The driver they used as of when they made this article was 472.12. Okay? Now, take a look at the video. There's the one CPU thread or core, which is maxed out all the time. It's thread 14 or CPU 14. Now, you would think the game would use some additional threads, but for some reason, it's really leading on CPU core 14 when the other cores seem to be doing next to nothing. So what that means is that even if you have an incredibly high-end gaming PC, you could have the best top-of-the-line Threadripper, it ain't going to matter because the game really only utilizes one core mainly. Now, due to the fact that the engine for Far Cry 6 only seems to use mostly one CPU thread, DSO Gaming was bottlenecked by their CPU at 1080p Ultra and 1440p Ultra. They're using a 3080. It should be able to do 120 FPS if you kind of mix up the settings between high and ultra in its sleep. So yeah, 1440p Ultra they could only get, and they were CPU bound again, not GPU bound, they can only get 60 FPS no matter how hard they tried. Like 120 FPS was just not happening at 1080p and 1440p. And that's absolutely insane. Now, the irony of Far Cry 6 leaning heavily on one CPU core is I remember when it came out around the same time as the 8th gen consoles launched. Far Cry 4, I remember you couldn't run that on any dual core PC. Even if you had like a dual core hyper-threaded or multi-threaded Pentium chip, like the dual core 4-thread chips that Intel used to dish out all the time, because there was two physical cores, the game would not run. There was initially a community-made patch that let it run, and then Ubisoft finally came out with a patch. So back then, Ubisoft was demanding for Far Cry games more than just two physical cores. Now, with the 9th gen consoles out, with 8-core CPUs being super affordable and most people having at least 6 to 8-core CPUs in their PCs now, you come out with Far Cry 6 7 years later, at least, and it's relying heavily on a single core. Talk about lack of optimization for a game engine. But this is just par for the course with Ubisoft. Now, of course, as I make this, I'm using Review Course USA. I keep on saying that word. Maybe day one when the game is officially released this October 7th, there will be a patch. And if there's a patch, then it'll fix this issue and it'll be a non-issue. But it won't be a stretch to say that a Ubisoft game will metaphorically, because most people get their games via digital distribution now, it won't be a stretch to say, though, that the game from Ubisoft, like many of the other games, will be an unoptimized mess. So that's the main reason I'm making this video. Buyer beware. If you're solely a PC gamer, you may want to wait until there's some patches, or if you have a choice between a console and PC, I see the game runs pretty damn smooth on like the PlayStation 5, and I'm sure on the Series X, you may want to get it from one of your consoles instead of getting it for PC. So just be careful where you spend your money with this game, and I hear the game is pretty good through the grapevine. This is Rich of Review Tech USA signing out. Have a good one. What are you doing, Ubisoft?